Hey, greetings from ManageEngine software deployment. And today's training is all about the software deployment. And could you please confirm by ensuring that you're able to hear my voice and view the presentation what I'm sharing? So could you please confirm by commenting on chat? Great, thank you. So today we are going to discuss about two things in town. Fine. So this is training schedule, and it's a 7-week of series, and we are now in week 2. And so those who have missed the training of the previous one, you can just check on the below URL. We have the video. You can just go and get benefit of it. And about me, my name is Leonard, and I have the industry experience of 10 years. And I predominantly assist customers in implementing Desktop Central, OS Deployer, and MDM, respectively. So today, as we know that it's a week 2, in which we are going to discuss about the software deployment, a significant module in Desktop Central. And here we go with the list of overview. So this is going to be a quick overview about how this software deployment works, what are the different categories we have in order to deploy the applications. And based on that, we have taken 3 different scenarios, which we are going to discuss on today's webinar. It's going to be of installing a template-based application, which is commonly used, and moving forward with an enterprise application, how to install a special enterprise application and to deploy to a specific department. And the third scenario is going to be about discussing on how an application could be installed in a user privilege, like how the users can install the application from their end. And we are going to discuss about scenarios and solution in which a real-time scenarios are raised and how this could be addressed with the help of Desktop Central. And finally, we are going to conclude with the most commonly asked questions. Right. So here we go. These are the supported operating systems for Desktop Central, which is Windows, Mac, and Linux. And we have a large customer base who contribute the community by categorizing the application as commercial. So right now we are having of 2,500 predefined applications, and 13,000 applications have been categorized in terms of the commercial, non-commercial, which is supported by Desktop Central. And a quick overview about the architecture level of Desktop Central. So how we have the Desktop Central in terms. So Desktop Central is a client and server model. Desktop Central server can be installed in the local office, and the agents are installed on all the client machines. And installing the Desktop Central agent on the client machine is a one-time job, and once it's installed, the upgradation process is going to take care by itself. And agents would be communicating the Desktop Central server periodically to pick up the tasks, and Desktop Central supports both LAN and WAN. And it's recommended to have a distribution server if we are planning to manage any remote offices or branch offices. So it could be managed using a distribution server, and even without the distribution server if it is less than 10 in machine count. And apart from that, we also have an ability to manage the roaming users, the people, those who are away from office network, which could be used and connected with the help of the internet, and we don't require the VPN client to be installed on the client machine in order to manage. So if the user is away from office, connected to different kind of ISPs or different kind of internet services, still we can manage using the Desktop Central. And you need to open certain ports in order to manage, and these are the ports which is given as a specimen. So opening the ports will help you to have a seamless and smooth communication between agent to server. Now let's quickly have a recap on the 90 minutes refresh policy. So the agent to server communication happens once in 90 minutes. A Desktop Central agent will be contacting the server at these 90 minutes policy, and this is called the agent refresh cycle. So this ensures that all computers in the network contact the server periodically, and based on this, 2 important factors are ensured. Number 1, network is not choked by any agent communication. So meaning that bandwidth is not getting disturbed due to the agent server communication. And number two, the performance of the server is not affected at any time. Server has an intelligence to ensure a systematic streamlined communication from all agents at regular interval. To be more precise, providing a quick instance to make it easy, understandable. So let's assume that we have 90 computers in the network. So one computer will reach out the desktop central server per minute. And if it goes for a 900 machine network, it's going to help you to manage 10 computers will reach to the desktop central server per minute. And if it moves on to the large scale of 9,000 computers, 100 computers will reach out to the desktop central server per minute. So this is to ensure that the communication is going to be seamless without any network congestion. Right. So now let's move on to the software deployment. So how this software deployment works. Sorry. So here we go. So we have a repository which holds all the applications. And this application is going to be shared when you're planning to deploy some application to the local setup. So you're having a head office where you install desktop central server, followed by the clients. We can store all the applications in the network share. By creating a network share, we can store all the applications and we can start deploying it inside your local office. When it comes for the remote office, in some cases, the remote office machine may not be able to access the network share. And even if it is accessible to the network share, it's still recommended to go with the HTTP option, which replicates this application and towards the distribution server from where the clients can come and pick up the application in order to get it installed in terms of a software deployment task. So we have two different remote sites with an ability. Now, so let's talk about a quick difference between the network share and the HTTP repository. So as we discussed, the network share is going to be available in your local setup, where you're creating a network share, followed by all the multiple files and folders. It could be of any size and any form, like MSI, EXE, or anything. And you can have it in your network share. You can dump all the applications, whatever you want to install in your network, to be saved in your network share path, and you can start deploying it whenever you need any requirement of this applications in the network. When it comes for the HTTP repository, it's going to work on the LAN and WAN. So it's not only for the WAN, it can also be used for the LAN. And you can have the files. It could use the less than of 5 files when you're trying to upload. And it uploads up to 5 gigs of application type. And this is going to get replicated. So once you select this HTTP repository in Desktop Central, it's going to replicate this application to the target machine where you're defining this application to be installed. So that distribution server is going to replicate and it will start deploying to the target machine. So that is going to be the option. So let's see with a software deployment for the network. So I'm just going to create an instance in order to make it more easy. So Peter is going to be an ID manager and I'm going to be the administrator with a team of users. So we are planning to deploy some activities, especially in the softwares, to the target machine. So we're going to focus on the local office where we are planning to install using the network share. And we have the different departments, as you could see here. And similarly, we also have some sort of remote offices, which can also be used in order to deploy the applications using the remote office purpose. We can create a remote office and we can start deploying it to the target machine. So we have different locations and we are planning to do this job. And let's get into the product to see how we are going to deploy a Chrome browser to all the network machines. So here we go. So we have a software deployment. By going down, you could see the list of options where you can choose anything. And all the packages, whatever you created, is going to be shown here. And I was talking about the repository. So here we go with the repository. Let's start with the repository, which is basic. You can create a network share if you are going to create a network share, yes, you can create a network share. By default, I just created in my same desktop central server machines. If you'd like to have the share stored in any of your network, or you already have an existing share, yes, you can create. You can browse and choose where the share is available, and you can just add it. So that is going to be added over here. And for this use case, I'm just choosing the network share. Followed by that, you also have the access using the credential. In order to access the shares, we also have the credential. And this comes into the picture when you're managing multiple domains or multiple work groups, or even a mixed network of Active Directory as well as a work group. So when it comes into the picture, so you have a domain A and domain B. And if you are having the network share in domain A, according to Desktop Central, it allows only to have one common network share to facilitate all the software deployments. So if it is going to be a domain A, so let's take it as a domain A, followed by the administrator, and I can just go ahead and provide the password. So what happens is, if I'm managing domain A and domain B, all the machines in the domain A is going to get this application since they're all inside the local domain. So what happens when we are trying to deploy some applications to the domain B? So the clients in the domain B will start accessing the network share, and it will use this as a credential in order to access the network share to get the application and install it to the target machine. So this is applicable for a domain scenario. So what happens if it is going to be a work group? So just specify the machine name in the work group. So which machine is acting as a network share or a software repository. We used to call it as a software repository. So which machine, in which machine you have created a software repository, you can just provide the machine name followed by the administrator credential if it is going to be a work group network. And you can see the examples over here. And apart from that, you also have a small video presentation. You can just go through it at your leisure to know how to create a common network share and its maintenance. Fine. So let's go back to the storyline. So here we go. So now our agenda is to install the Chrome browser. So the Chrome browser, I'm going to use my template. A template is a kind of a predefined applications which is completely bundled within the product. And we support 2,600 plus applications, which is completely bundled with all its silent switches. In order to get all these applications, by default, it's going to synchronize. Whenever we are going to add any kind of new applications from our end in the software crawler, which we maintain, that application is going to get replicated over here based upon the synchronization. That synchronization is going to take place automatically. Apart from that, if you'd like to make it as a manual, yes, we have an on-demand synchronization. You can use the sync now button in order to synchronize. So whatever applications which you're adding over there, it's going to get reflected in this place. And this application is automatically provided with all its silent switches. So when you click on this application, you could see it's completely bundled with the application details, and we provide you the silent switch. So with the help of the silent switch, you can go ahead and install it. And all you have to do is just download this application. So it is going to get downloaded, and that will be stored in your software repository. So here we go. So all the template applications are going to be stored in this location. If you feel that this place is consuming much of a disk space because it is holding in the C drive, which runs with an operating system, you can very well go and change it to your different directory on the same machine, like D, E, F, as you wish. So this is going to use the new location, and we recommend you to keep this on the same desktop central server machine, since this action takes place with the help of the communication within the port. So desktop central, as far as the agents are communicating the desktop central server, we can succeed with this template based application with more guaranteed situation compared to the package. Fine. So now our requirement is all about installing the Chrome application. So I'm just giving a quick search of Chrome, and I have a list of Chromes which is being created here. So I'm going to select a Chrome application, and you could see here, when I click on this create package, it will start download this application. So this is an MSI. Since an MSI does not require silent switches, so it is not required the silent switches. So we can go and click on this create package. So if I just click on the create package, if I select and click on the create package, so it will automatically download the application. It's going to download the application, and that will be saved inside the location. Now, so once it's completely saved, it takes some time to download. So once it's completely saved, you'll be able to see the Chrome in this place with the option of go to package. So you'll be having it like a go to package, you can see here. So once a package is successfully downloaded, you will not be able to see an option to re-download again because it's already downloaded. So now I'm going to use a go to package. I'm just clicking on a go to package. It takes me directly to the package type. So I'm just selecting a package. I'll go down here to choose to install for user or for computer. And if it is going to be for Mac, it's going to be computer, and Linux, it's going to be computer. So for example, let's take off computer configuration. So I'm just going to use this computer configuration. I can go ahead, select and install the computer configuration. And here we go. So I have the complete computer configurations over here. I can choose any name. So I'm just trying to deploy this for my local office. So I'm selecting it. And we have a modify package where you can just go ahead and you can modify the package. If you want to make some changes over here, you can do that by using this option. Now, coming down here, I can choose the option of which application. It's by default chosen the Chrome, so we are going to install the Chrome. In case if I want to remove the Chrome, I can also use this option and remove the Chrome. And I can also use advertise, which means it will advertise, like it will prompt the user. So with the user intervention, we can install it. But now we are trying to install it silently to the target machine. Well, so I'm trying to install it to my target machine. So it is by default going to install with the help of the system user. So it's going to install using a system user, which is a system account. So by default, the machine has a system account. It's going to use the system account in order to install it. In case if the target machine does not have a privilege to install using a system account, I can elevate it to run as administrator. With the browse option, I can elevate, I can choose the target machine, and I can use the option with that. And after that, if I want to go back, install it at any specific time. So now we are planning to install it in one single shot to the target machine. In case if I need to install this application in my later hours, for example. So I'll not be available in office by afternoon hours, but I want to deploy this application during my non-office hours, or else I want to deploy this application during my weekend. So what is going to happen here is I'm going to create this deployment for today at 8 o'clock. So whereas my users will not be available on the office during the 8 o'clock, so it is going to be non-office hours where I can deploy this application to all my target machines. And similarly, all my users will come back again by next day morning, so I don't want to bother them. So I'm going to use this option to provide 6 o'clock. My users will start coming into the office. So I'm just providing a window frame to go with this application deployment. So once it's created, this application will start replicated to the target machines, and it will install this application by 8 o'clock. Now coming down here, so we provide you a DC default policy. This policy is going to help you to associate with certain customization. For example, I want to reboot the machine at a specific time, or I want to wake up the machine if the machine is down and deploy it, or I want to define when I want to install it, which week, which day, and how this has to be deployed. So I can see everything. I can create a policy. I can do that. I can also use the DC default policy which is provided here. And this will also show you what are the other configurations which are associated with this policy. So let me take you to a new policy. I'm just going to create a new policy. So here we go. I create a policy providing a policy name like Chrome install. I can choose either way to install the application. If I want to install this application during the system startup, yes, I can do that. If it is going to be a 90 minutes refresh policy, so which means if the machine is up on the network and the next contact, it goes, picks up the task, and it will get installed to the target machine, or whichever takes place first, we are going to use this. And the system startup would be helpful for you in terms of deploying some specific application, especially during the patches for Java or Flash. So during the startup, no applications or no programs can share this Java or Flash to install. So for that reason, we have given you the system startup. So during the system boot process, it could be installed, because if it is installed during the 90 minutes refresh policy, if other programs like browser or any other application is using the Java or Flash, then they may not get the updates successfully. So for that reason, it's provided for system startup, and you can also use this for software deployment at any of your instances. Coming down, we can choose on which day we want to install, like which week, the first week of a month or second week of a month, third week, fourth week, as you wish, you can do that. And similarly with the days. So I just don't want to make some changes over here, so I'm just keeping it as it is. And the deployment window will be of starting from 24 hours, it's going to install it. Anyway, I have already created a deployment window in my setup, so it's going to start only at that point of time. However, if you'd like to do this deployment window for patches, yes, you can also use it. And during the time, in case if the machine is trying to deploy the application, if it is going to get the target machine is down, this would help you to turn on the machine up on the network and it will install it. And this process works with the help of the Wake on LAN feature. So you should be enabled with the Wake on LAN feature in your BIOS, and that would help you to wake up the machine by sending the magic packets and install the application. In case if your machine is in hibernate state or sleep mode, this may not function, since the Wake on LAN works only on the hard boot. Like machine is totally down, then we can wake up the machine. So logically the machine is up, taken control with the operating system, and operating system has put the machine in the sleep mode or hibernate mode, so this may not work. And going forward, even if you want to download the patches or the softwares during the subsequent refresh cycle, yes, you can do that. So meaning that when the software deployment or patches are created in the server side, the agent will come and pick the task, and it will start getting the software from the server. Else, the patches will get downloaded and sent across to the target machines in the next subsequent refresh cycle. And coming down, if you want to notify your users upon the task, yes, you can provide it. And you may also provide a quick prompts onto the users during the deployment process. It will be in the right bottom corner. And you may also provide a privilege to the users to skip this deployment within the window frame time. So when the prompt comes up, like with this information, it comes up saying that the application is going to get installed. So you can allow the users to skip the deployment, and the user can skip the deployment. That is going to prompt them with how long they want to skip it. They can use the time frame of 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 1 hour, and they can skip it. So if the user selects 30 minutes, for next 30 minutes, the deployment will not take place. And after 30 minutes, again, the same prompt will be shown up to the user to remind that the application needs to get installed. And if the user skips again, so it could be extended for next time again. So if the user has a fashion of doing this frequently, as an administrator, if you want to install it, I can also turn a day here. So even though the user is skipping the deployment process, still I could make this application install forcefully after X number of days. And even if the machine seems to be idle, where there is no action on the mouse and keyboard, with a given time limit, you can, it automatically goes for the installation. And this is all about optional settings. And coming down with a reboot policy. So after installing an application, if you want to reboot the machine, yes, we can go ahead and reboot the machine. By default, we do not reboot the servers. And if you want to reboot a machine, yes, you can forcefully reboot a machine. And similarly, you can also skip the reboot. And the same process which we discussed for notify users about deployment is going to take place over here in this place. So once I'm going to save this, so I'm not going to use the reboot policy, and this is also going to be useful for the shutdown option. So when I'm going to use this shutdown, again, I can perform the same activities And by the way, I'm not going to use this now. So I'm just selecting save. So it is saved now. And if I'm going back to the location, I will be able to see the policy here. And once the policy is chosen, it's time for us to deploy to the target machine. So I plan to deploy for my local office. So apart from that, we may also see all the details about the domains, whatever domains we manage, and all the other remote offices along with the local office. I'm selecting it for the local office, and I can filter based upon the local office to where I want to deploy based upon the domain, site, OU, group, computers, and I'm going to use this option for custom group, dynamic custom group, IP address, IP range, operating system. Like if you want to deploy to any of the information, like especially for the OS related, you can deploy to the common options. And you may also use this in order to use the machines. So you can just go ahead, you can provide a complete laptop set. All the laptops is going to be the defined target. And we may also go and exclude in case if I don't want to deploy to any of the machine. I can go ahead, I can exclude, and we can just specify the machine name. So if I don't want to install this application to this machine, I can choose it. Coming down, it's going to help us to retry the configuration on the failed target. So we have a probability of 10 chances to choose over here, which helps you to select during the next startup. So in case if this deployment is not happening on any one or more machines, that's going to take place using this retry configuration, and we can choose according to the choice, and we can select how many retries you want to make it during the system startup or during the 90 minutes refresh policy. Coming down, I can provide my email address in order to get this added. So I would be notified once I create this job and I'm just going back, I will be notified about the status of this task, and I can see the status over here with the help of this email address. And I will also get the notification email for every 6 servers for 3 days. And I can deploy it. So using this deploy option, it's going to help me to deploy based upon the agent communication within the 90 minutes. The next contact time when the agent picks up the task, it's going to deploy. If I'm going to use this deploy immediately, it's going to deploy it immediately since we have a notification server port, which runs on 8027. So the need of this deploy immediately is I cannot wait for 90 minutes to install this application. I want to roll it out immediately, so I can make use of this deploy immediately. So the client's listening to the server on this 8027 port for every 5 minutes, it's going to get updated. And the notification server will update all the target machines to come and pick the task immediately instead of waiting for 90 minutes. So by which it takes place swiftly compared to the deploy option. And even if I want to save this as a draft and I can execute at a later point in time, yes, I can do that. And I can just go ahead and cancel the task at any time I want. So by which I'll be able to see the status. And in the same way, even if you want to install these templates to a user, yes, we can install this application to the user also. And on the user side, we have an option of, for example, the same way in the user time, you can see if you want to install for the user, yes, it could be installed. And if you don't need to worry that the user does not have a privilege to install any application. So by default, it chooses the target user. In case if the user does not have a privilege, you can either move on to system user or you can use with the runners option. So that's how we are going to deploy this application. And in the meanwhile, so if you have any questions about this discussion, what we are doing over here, so you can very well contact our expert panel, which is going to be sitting aside in order to address all your queries. So you can just raise your queries to the chat during the training. Fine. So once we install this application, so I want to know what is the status of this application. I can go to the view configurations. In the view configurations, I could see what is the status. So you have a different kind of status over here. I can click on the status, which shows what is this application all about. It will show the details about the failure in case if it is failed. you may just go towards this option and you can see what is the reason it failed, and you can contact the support with a screenshot. You may also see the configuration details. So what is this configuration all about, providing all the details and your policies, the deployment policies, as well as the package, what has been created. And the summary will show all the informations about the settings. In case if you want to go modify the settings again, you can just go ahead and you can just modify the settings very well to this place, and you can make some changes. However, this view configuration will also show you the list of different kind of status. The in progress will show you, like if you're installing it in multiple machines, after it installs in the first machine, it moves on this process to the next machine. So it reflects like the process is in progress. And if it is executed failed, it will be like the execution on the multiple machine. If you have chosen multiple machine, if it is failed on any one of the machine in the targets, so it will show you the execution failed. So meaning that if you're deploying for 3 machines, according to Desktop Central, if all 3 machines are installed with this application, so it's going to present the executed status. So it's going to be a transparent resultant. If it is failed with 1 or more machines, and if it is installed in 1 machine, still we show it as executed failed, and you can go and get the details. Similarly, you have the other status, and all these status could be shown up in the help card shown at the bottom, and you can know what is what over here. Fine. So similarly, so I have successfully deployed this to the target users, and now if I want to make use of the same configuration for my different users or a different set of computers, I don't need to start from the scratch to create it. I can go down to the actions. So you could see about modifying it. I can modify it, and you can also go and suspend the task. In case if you want to suspend, yes, we can go ahead and suspend the task. So whatever package, like whatever machines came and picked up the task, will be moving forward, and if any machine which did not come and pick the task, for those machines the suspend action will be applied. And you can also move this configuration to the trash, which is an archive, if you don't want to have it here, because if you have a lot of configurations, so most of the configurations are already been executed, so I don't want to have this executed. I want to have the real-time configuration in my place. I can use this move to trash option, so it will be moved to the trash over here. And now coming back to the another requirement. So I want to have the same package, but I want to do it for the different targets. Instead of creating from the scratch, as I mentioned, I can use this without target. So it's going to create everything as it is without 0 target. So I can go ahead, I can choose my another set of users or another set of computers, and I can go ahead and deploy it. And that's going to be prefixed with the, it's going to be suffixed with a copy, so you can have it, else you can change the configuration name and you can go ahead. So this shows the configuration status, and by which we have successfully installed the Chrome applications. So if you have any questions on this case, on this use case, request you to please raise your queries. And let's move on to the next one. So this is just a quick snapshot of how this works. Like you're downloading the binaries from a quick recap what we did. So we have downloaded the binaries from the website, from the Chrome site, and the silent switches, by default, it is MSI, so it does not have silent switch. And we have created a package, it automatically packaged, and we have started deploying to the target machine once we create a package. So let's move on to the next case, which talks about the deploying of MS Office 2016 to a specific department. Fine. So here I'm going to use the packages in order to create, but since it's an application, it's always recommended you come and check for the applications over here in this place, because we have given you 2000 plus applications over here. So your first preference, and you could come to this place to check what are the applications we have, and most of the applications are addressed over here, so you can make use of it. For example, I'm choosing Office 2016 and I'm searching for the application. Yes, we have it here. And you could see here, the previous application, the Chrome, another application, you have an option of create package under action. So when we click on it, it's going to download from the vendor site and it's going to create a package automatically. But here we could see learn more for the Microsoft Office 2016. So this is termed as a special kind of applications. So let's click on Office 2016 to see what we have here. So here we go. So we have all the details about the application. However, we have how to dock. The reason, most of the specialized applications are having a set of rules or the guidelines provided by the vendor. Similar to that application, Office also has a set of guidelines where we need to follow certain guidelines in order to install this application. So let me take you to how to dock to show you what we have. This takes you to the website to deploy in Microsoft Office 2016 or Office 365. So we have the system requirements. You can go through the system requirements, and here we go with a quick snapshot of what has to be done in order to install the Microsoft Office 2016 to the specific room. So we have to download the package, extract the content, customize the installation. So the customized installation is all about of we have to follow the details, the guidelines, what Microsoft provides. So you could see here, it has been given step by step for easy understanding. And with the general English, you could download the application from this place, which is going to be a download package, which is a customization tool, and provide the information over here, which is a customization of Office deployment tool. Download it and provide the product ID key, because we're not installing for one single machine to download just to install this application by clicking next. It's going to be done for a specific department, or it's going to be done for the whole entity of a company of different departments, or more number of machines you're planning to deploy. In such conditions, it has to be with a certain format, and Microsoft provides the guidelines, and by providing the volume license key and all the other details are provided. So once everything is done, it creates a config.xml file or the configuration.xml file, so we can create it. And having that configuration.xml, now we are going inside Desktop Central in order to deploy the package. So the first phase of this action has to be done from your end, from the Microsoft download Office customization tool, configure it. And once it's done, we are entering into the second phase within the product. So here we go with the product. So I'm just going to take you here to the product, and I'm going to the packages. So we can add a package now. I'm going to add a package because I've already downloaded the Office setup file. It could be downloaded from the website, or even if you have in a CD. I'm just adding it to a network share. Remember, we were discussing about the network share. So I'm choosing the Windows. I'm creating a package manually. So here we go. So since it's an exe file, I'm just moving across this exe file. I'm just naming it as Office 2016. And if you're trying to install any application, especially the exe application, you may choose for both MSA and exe, you may choose what kind of application it is. So it's obvious I purchased this application, so I'm choosing the commercial part. Especially for exe, for MSI, we don't need any silent switches, but for exe, it's mandatory to provide the silent switch. And this silent switch is a kind of a command or argument which is provided from the vendor. So the objective of this silent switch is, if we are trying to deploy the application to a common source, like a group of machines or users, we want this application to be installed silently in the background without interrupting or without waiting for the user intervention. So for that reason, the silent switch has been created, and for every exe application, it's mandatory to provide the silent switch. So if you're trying to install a commercial application, the silent switch could be provided from the vendor. If you're using a non-commercial applications, so we have a value-added service over here. You can see the select application. So we have a huge list of silent switches provided for these applications. So whenever you're planning to install these applications, you can just run through a quick check in order to get that application listed or not. For example, so you have a list of applications. So we provide 2,000 plus applications over here. So for example, let's take a sea cleaner. I'm just searching for a sea cleaner. It provides all the different versions of sea cleaner over here. So whatever sea application you choose, for example, I'm just choosing this application. When I select it, you can see it automatically creates the silent switch. So that's going to be the idea. Fine. So let's go back to the Office 2016 installation. So the objective here is if you want to use, you can just go and make use of this select application. And if you do not find the select applications, your application is not in the select application, you can just Google it, or you may also raise a request by clicking on this link. So we may try to get we may try to add these applications for you. Fine. So coming back to the Office deployment. So remember, I was talking about the network share initially. So we have dumped all the applications. Similarly, I have also dumped all the application. I'm going to use this browse option, and I'm having it my Office 2016. Here we go. I'm selecting it. So I'm added. Now, going back to this instructions. So we have provided the share path. We have chosen this MSI EXE, and I've named that application. I've selected the application which is added in my network share path, and specify the installation command and argument like setup.exe with the configure. So because we are using this configuration.xml file, so the configuration.xml file holds all those activities. So we don't need to specify a silent switch over here. And now I need to store this or save this configuration.xml in the same location where I have saved my setup.exe for Office. So for example, so let's go back. I've already saved my Office 2016. So I'm going to use this configure over here, and I'm going to paste. I'm just going to copy because I already have this information over here, and I'm just going to provide the configuration.xml because I already have this configuration.xml stored in this location. So I'm going to add it here as configuration.xml. So likewise, I've just added the application over here. Now my next movement is to install it. But before installing it, I just want to have some kind of pre-check. So this is not only for Office. For any kind of application you want to install, you may use a pre-check, which is going to be a modernized activity, which is a pre-deployment activities. I can call it as a pre-deployment activities. And my intention is I'm going to install this Office 2016 to my target machine. But before installing it, I just want to have a quick check whether my target machines are eligible to have this application installed, because it requires at least 2 gigs of free space. So how do I check it? So that is what the pre-deployment activity is going to help us on this. And we are going to run a condition, and you have a lot of conditions over here. For example, let me relate to some of the conditions. So I'm trying to install, so forget about this Office 2016. I'm planning to install some Adobe Acrobat Reader 15. If I want to uninstall my old version of Adobe, yes, I can use this check software. I can go ahead, use this option to check my other application, I can uninstall it. Similarly, if I want to check for any values in my registry to pre-check and then go ahead and take action of the deployment, yes, I can do that. And similarly for the data value, and you want to check any folder or file which is available, so by which we can start installing it, yes. And if you want to check for the process, for example, installing any kind of a Java application, if the Java application is running over there, you want to kill the process, then you want to run. So if you want to first check the process, yes, we can go ahead and check it. And if any of these activities is not feasible for you, you can just construct a script, and you can make use of the script. You can call all the arguments and activities inside the script. You can choose the script in order to run this conditions. But now my condition is about checking the free disk space. So I'm selecting the free disk space, and I also already mentioned, so I just want to ensure my target machines are having a minimum of 2 gigs. So I'm adding it, so it's get added. And going forward, If you also have some kind of conditions or any kind of a requirement, if you have any kind of a requirement going forward to make use of it. For example, let me put it in a scenario. So I'm planning to install my business application, and that application requires some update, but I don't want to run any update of that. So in such condition, I can install this application, and by providing a post deployment activity, I write a script like not to run any update, so by which I can go and delete a registry entry after installing this application. Yes, I can browse, select the script name. If it is with arguments and exit code specified, I can provide. I can go ahead and do the job. So what happens is, after installing the application, it will go check for that registry value and remove it or disable the registry value so that the application will not go for any update. Else, if you want to make some changes in the configuration file of the same application, yes, you can also create a script and use it for the post deployment activity. So any action after the installation of the application to be done, you can make use of the post deployment. Fine. And one quick thing I just want to emphasize here is, so whenever you're trying to install any kind of applications, whether it's going to be a commercial, non-commercial, I would recommend you, whether it's going to be network share or HTTPS, anything, I would recommend you to always choose a test bed, install it from desktop, so it will ensure that it's getting installed successfully. And based on that, you can just go ahead and roll it out to the live production. As you know, we already have a save as new option, so you don't need to create any configuration from the scratch again. So you may transform your test case to the real-time live production installation job. Fine. And afterwards, it's going to be advanced options. So the advanced options, you can make use of the architecture. So whether you want to create this package 8-bit or 64-bit, yes, you can choose it according to your choice. By default, an application would stand for 2 hours during the installation process. So it will wait for 2 hours for the target machine to come and pick the task to get it installed. So after 2 hours, it will be, the wait operation will be timed out. So if you're planning to deploy this application, and especially using a remote offices, so if you're running with a low bandwidth of internet connection, if it is taking more time to replicate the application, because this is going to be at least of 1 gig or more than 1 gig. So if you want to copy this application and replicate onto the remote office, it takes more time. We can extend the time limit up to 6 hours of time. So by choosing this option, it will give a complete room for the replication followed by the application deployment. And by coming down here, so we have the exe path and the package properties. It's nothing but if you want to specify any details about the vendor, like who's the vendor and what is the application, you can just provide the details and you can hide it. And once I just click on the add package, so this will be added to the package list. So since we already have the Office 2016, it will be shown over here. So we have the Office 2016 package already installed. So here we go. So I just already created this package. I can go ahead. I can again make use of this deployment process to deploy to my user or configuration for the computers. Fine. So I can just go use it for the specific department. So I'm just using the computer configuration here. And again, you have the same options of system user. And even if you want to copy the files to the client machines, yes, we can copy the files to the client machines. And if it is going to be a folder-based application, yes, we can also copy the folder-based applications to the target machine. So this will get copied to the target machine and it will install the application from the client machine. And once the installation is done, the application will get removed automatically. And even if you want to interact with the user during the installation, yes, you can do that accordingly. Fine. So now once it's done, so we have already discussed about the install after and do not apply. And I can just go down here, choosing my department. I can select, now I'm choosing my domain. I'll go ahead, select a custom group. So here we go. And I can choose my department accordingly. For example, I'm just choosing the department. I can go ahead. I can install it successfully. And in order to create this custom group, we have an option in the admin tab. So when you go to the admin tab, you have an option of custom groups under global settings. You can create a custom group from here, providing a department name or any name. This will show you the list of your computers for the domain. So you can choose your domains. It's applicable for multiple domains, by which you can select the machines and you can just create a group. And this group could be created for computers as well as users. So we can make use of this group, and by which we can deploy to a specific group in order to make things work. Fine. So by the way, I have successfully installed the application to the specific group. So we are done with this Office deployment process. And if you have any questions in it, please post it to the chat panel. And I'll just quickly recap about what we have done. So we have customized the Office 2016 package by going to the Microsoft site, downloaded the configuration.xml file, and then we have added the package, the Office setup file to the repository, and also added the configuration file to the same repository. Then we have created a package and defined to the target machine, installed it. Right? So let's move on to the third scenario. Like, I'm receiving lots of help desk tickets to install various business applications for different departments. How can I save time fulfilling these requests? So the objective here is, whenever a user is requesting an application to be installed from the same department, so I need to extend my service to deploy the applications. And this application is going to be a commonly known application. So they are frequently raising a request to install this application, so by which we have more overheads in my help desk team. So in order to avoid this kind of overhead, so that we can focus on other potential activities, Desktop Central facilitates a feature called Self-Service Portal. So a self-service portal is nothing but, we are going to create a package, a list of packages, list of applications. So I know that what my sales team requires, I know that what my finance team requires, else I'll collect the details about what application they need. I'm going to provide these applications in advance in a software catalog and publish it to them. So by which they can go ahead, install this application at their own convenience at any point of time without raising a request to the help desk. So that is my objective. And this application is going to be published only for that specific group, and people, those who belongs in the group, is going to have it installed. And again, I'm going to decide who is going to be part of this group. So for that, as you already mentioned, we are going to create a custom group. You please create a custom group by going to the admin tab. Once it's done, come to software deployment and self-service setting. So we can provide an option for the users to select the self-service portal applications from any of these choices, whether they want to use it from agent tray or a desktop shortcut or a start menu, whichever they want, they can use it. And if you feel by default the icon is going to be, if in case you're going to choose the shortcut, it's going to be by default with the Desktop Central icon. If it sounds like an alien icon for the users, perhaps you can just change it to your local icon of your company logo or anything as you wish. And you can specify all these other details, the shortcut name of ManageEngine SelfService Portal, and you can publish the other activities. And once it's completely done, so we can discuss about these automated settings in our Desktop Central with Service Desk Plus integration, because that's more into the relevancy. And you can also publish non-commercial applications and commercial applications. If you want to specify anything else, you can specify it here. Well, so once it's completely done, so here we go with the service portal. So now we are planning to add the applications. We can add the applications for computers and users as you wish. So when you go to the computers, you can specify any group, for example, finance team. And I can simply select the applications with the drag and drop. I can choose the application with drag and drop of whatever applications I can use it. So these are all the non-commercial applications which I'm adding. Similarly, I'm also going and adding other applications like Microsoft Office or the Visio or any commercial applications. I'm going to add any other commercial applications over here, and I'm just going to publish it. So once it's published, because I've already had the finance team over here, so once it's published, it is going to be added. These applications are added to the location, but please ensure that we already created a package earlier. So when we're creating a package, we have already termed how this package has to be. So this, all the packages what we create here, when it is going to get deployed to the user, even if the user does not have a privilege, it is going to install using the system account. So the user does not require the permission to install it. So when you click on the finance department, it's going to show what are the application we have selected. So we have selected MS Office as a commercial and the rest of that as non-commercial. And we can also go and quickly check about what are the machines available in this location. And once it's completely done, so the user is going to see the application on the self-service portal. So when you right click on your agent tray icon, the agent tray icon will have the self-service portal, and that template will be like this, as you could see here. So it provides all the details over here, like what is this application, what have we chosen, and it is shown here. So if the user clicks on install, it will get installed automatically for the user. However, for the commercial applications, we have provided with a request, because we have chosen as a request for approval mode. So those applications, whatever we have added for request, because this application is not entitled for all the people in the group. However, this could be installed on the need based when a user raises a request. So in such condition, Office is going to be part of that, and Visio, the Skype for Business, is going to be part of that, and I can just provide the details. So this will help me to show for the user side. So I'm just going to close it, and this will help them to install the application successfully to the target machine. And now, when it comes for the Service Desk Plus, so here we go. In the Service Desk Plus, whatever application, so remember the MS Office and Skype for Business has been requested by some users, and my help desk team, I'll just assign this application to be managed for the team. So the team will be getting the request for approval. And if this request, so for example, this has been raised, the request has been raised for one of the user, and this raised for one other user, so they require this application. So I can go ahead, take action by commenting it. If I approve and provide the details and save it, then it's going to get approved for them, which they will be having an option to install the application onto the machine. Else, it will be shown as rejected for them. So they cannot go ahead and they can install this application in that place. So this would help you to take action and work accordingly to the use case. Fine. Now let's see about the installation package. So you can use these applications and everything is installed for them. Going forward, I don't need this Adobe Acrobat X or the CCleaner. I don't need the CCleaner to be available for them because we have the latest version. I want to add the latest version, so I can disassociate a package from here. And this package will be removed. So when the users now try to deploy, they may not be able to see this package at all. So this is about the package installation. And so here we go with the quick recap of how this looks. So in the agent tray icon, you'll be able to see the self-service portal. When you click on it, it's going to show you this install method, which we have discussed. And you can just provide the notification if you want to raise a request, and it'll be shown as rejected if I reject it over here. And this is a quick recap of the flow. So client computers is going to install this application. So the request is sent. The request is going to be monitored, and the gateway is going to be desktop central, which is going to process towards the Service Desk Plus. And when we approve it, it's going to come back and it will be showing as a installed. And this is a self-service portal option which we discussed. So we are creating a package, we are creating a department in a custom group, associating the softwares to the department, and the user is going to help to install the application. So this is all about the third scenario. So we have come to the end of this scenario. So if you have any questions, you can just go ahead and raise it in your chat window. The expert panel would be liable to address it. Fine. So let's quickly move on to the real-time scenarios. Fine. So I want to install Autodesk software on a few computers, and it requires .NET Framework. How can I achieve this? So meaning of here is I want to install multiple applications. Before I install the Autodesk application, it is looking for my another application, like it's looking for a .NET Framework application. So how this could be used? So here we go with the option. So when we go down to the software deployment, the packages, I have a .NET Framework. I want this to be installed first. So I'm selecting, I can go to the computer deployment. It's created. Now I'm just adding another package of Autodesk. I can go down, I can search my Autodesk, I can add it, and this will get installed. So basically, so for example, if I'm going to install the Autodesk, so it will help me to add over here. So like this. So it will get installed according to the sequential order. First, it will install the .NET Framework, then it will move on to the Autodesk application. Fine. So now let's move on to this next scenario. Can I install software at the user level such as Dropbox and Skype? Yes, of course. We can install it for the Skype for the user level. So remember, when we are adding the packages, we have an option to select the application and install it for user also. So you just go to the user and you can choose your appropriate user and you can deploy it. So moving on to the next scenario. I have a third-party application that does not support silent installation. How can I install it? So as we already discussed over here, when we are creating a package, you have an option to use this with the allow users to interact with the installation window. So you can make use of this option to go ahead. Else, we provide you the ISS answer files in the documents and desktop center website. You can make use of it. And remember, I already emphasized, like, if it is going to be a commercial application, please contact the vendor, else check in the Google for that application, else you can use these two options to go ahead. Well, so moving on to this fourth scenario, I have a set of application including MS Office and CRM deployed for my sales team. I want all new salespeople to have these applications installed on the computer automatically. How can I do that? So very simple. If you're having a group or OU where you have already applied all the applications, you want to add, like you want to have the newly joined member in the group needs to have this application installed. It needs to be gone to the admin tab. We have a feature called configuration settings. In this configuration settings, any user or computer which is getting added to the OU or group, they would be getting this application automatically installed on the given parameters. I tried to deploy a business app to a computer, but I failed. Is there a way to troubleshoot it myself? Yes. When you're creating a package in software deployment, if anything happens, for example, if any mishap occurs, you're trying to install the application. So you can just go down, you can select the package, you can modify the package, or when you're creating a package, you'll be having an option of choosing the debug mode. So you can choose the debug mode and you can make use of it in the way. And this debug mode will help you to activate the things accordingly. So by which we can get that information like in Skype. So we are trying to deploy the Skype, it fails, so it creates a log and you can get it from the package creation. Right, so finally, we're coming to the questions. So can you deploy enterprise applications specifically purchased for our organization? Yes, of course, we have discussed a scenario of deploying an MS Office 2016, which is going to be an enterprise application. And similarly, you can also install other applications. Self-service portal is not enabled. Do I need an enterprise edition to use self-service portal? How do I know which edition do I use? Fine. So yes, of course, if you want to make use of this self-service portal, it's going to be in the enterprise edition available. If you want to know what is your edition, you can just go click on the license and that gives you the option of what edition it is available for. Question number 3, where can I view the software deployment tasks? So the software deployment tasks, all the tasks are going to be shown under your view configuration with the status, which helps you to understand what's the status that's currently running on, and you can go and modify the task as you wish. Question number 4, where on the user's PC does it copy the software installable? Does it erase afterwards? Yes, of course. So when we are copying, when we're using this copy file option during the deployment process, it's going to copy the application to the client machine, which will be under your desktop central in program files x86 if it is 64-bit, if it is program files in 32-bit. You'll be having desktop central _ agent folder in which you'll be having the software package where it will be available over there. And once the application is successfully installed, yes, the installables will get removed from the client machine. If I want my software packages to be replicated to the remote office, what is the best way? So it's always recommended to have the distribution server and use the HTTP option. So when you're using this HTTP option instead of the network share, the application will start replicated to the remote office instead of fetching it from the network share. Question number 6. When multiple software deployed in sequence, if the first package fails, does it attempt to continue? How is notification sent back? So meaning that when I'm trying to deploy multiple applications, like what we discussed in .NET Framework or Autodesk and multiple applications like that, if any one application is getting failed, then the process would be paused, and you would be having an option to go notify you, and we have already discussed about it. So when you're selecting this option, at the bottom you can see the notification. So when you're selecting the enable notification, it will help you to notify to the user based upon the process. So question number 7, what is the best way to research what silent switches work and what they are from vendor to vendor? So exactly, the silent switches might be vary according to the versions, and it is based upon vendor to vendor because the switches are provided from the vendor, not from us. So you need to get in touch with them in case if it is a commercial. If it is a non-commercial, please you can Google it, else you can use the AutoScript files which we have mentioned in this training. You may use that, which is available in the documents, in the how to documents in the website. You can use that in order to install it. But however, it's based upon completely a vendor-based application. I mean, the switches are completely defined by the vendors. Fine, so we have come to the end of this training, and hope the training helped you to get a quick insight of software deployment. And I would recommend you to please rate us on a scale of 1 to 5, where the 5 is going to be the topmost. And you may also spread a word by adding us in your social media by providing a hashtag. So spread a word over this. And the next training is all about of asset management, which is going to happen by next week, which means a Thursday of October 19th at the given time. So I would request you to please stay tuned for the next training. And thank you very much for all your active participation, and you all have a great day. Thank you.